They scheduled me for 9 o'clock on a Tuesday in November, which is the kind of appointment a building inspector gets when a business is growing, fast enough that the fire marshal's office sends a courtesy notice and the owner decides not to wait. I loaded the clipboard, drove the county truck out past the grain elevator on Route 9, and found the address. Ellison Precision Components, a converted machine shop with a new steel addition that doubled the footprint. Nice work. Clean. Lines, somebody had thought about the drainage. I didn't know anything else about it. That's the job. You show up, you look at what's in front of you, you write down what the code says. The woman who met me at the side entrance was wearing a gray blazer and moving like she had 17 things already in motion. She shook my hand without slowing down. Mara Ellison, I own the place. Where do you want to start? Electrical panels first, I said. Then the suppression system, then I'll walk the floor. Follow me. She moved fast and talked precise. The addition had been framed the previous spring. The suppression contractor was a firm out of Columbus. She had every permit on file and pulled them before I asked. That saved us 20 minutes. I wrote that down too. The floor was 22 people, clean stations, proper aisle clearance, the kind of shop where a tool has a place and goes back to it. One woman ran a CNC lathe and nodded at me when I passed. I nodded back. The hum in the place was the good kind. Steady, purposeful. Mara Ellison walked me through every room. She answered my questions with numbers. When I asked about the egress from the secondary storage wing, she had already thought about it. The door opens in, which isn't code, she said. We're correcting it next month. I've got the contractor lined up. I'll note it as a scheduled correction, I said. That's a common fix. She looked at me the way people look when they expected a fight and didn't get one. We covered the break room, the loading bay, the new addition. Everything was within tolerance or on its way there. Around 10:15, she got a call she had to take, and she pointed me to the small hallway outside her office. I'll be 10 minutes. Help yourself to the coffee. The machine's on the left. I got a cup and stood in the hall the way I stand everywhere. Quiet, not fidgeting, looking at whatever's in front of me. What was in front of me was a wall. She'd framed things, not trophies, documents. A letter from a small business association. A photo of the floor taken the day the first order shipped, judging by the expressions. A handwritten note behind glass, which I didn't read because that's not my business. And in the middle of the wall, centered like it meant something, the letterhead of the Tanner County Regional Development and Investment Fund. I knew that letterhead. I'd sat in that room for 2 years as a rotating advisory board member, the kind of unpaid civic slot that gets filled by whoever the county commissioner thinks won't cause trouble. I'd done it because my father told me once that a man should do one thing his community asks of him and do it quietly. I did it for 2 years, and then I went back to my inspections. I stepped closer and read. It was a termination approval document, dated 5 years ago. A unanimous board vote to end an at-will employment contract with a named party at a regional manufacturer. 3 sentences of legal language, 4 signatures, and then at the bottom, 1 dissent. My handwriting. I remembered the room. I remembered the lawyer explaining that the company had the right under the terms of the contract. I remembered the board members nodding. I remembered the file they'd passed around, the employee's name, her position, the reason flagged as operational restructuring. I remembered looking at the date and the other date in the file, and understanding what those 2 dates meant together, which was that this woman was being terminated because she was pregnant, dressed up in language that couldn't be used in a courtroom. I said no. Nobody argued with me. It was my vote, and I cast it, and they filed the paperwork the other way, and that was that. On the way out, I stopped at the fund's administrative assistant and told her quietly that I thought the severance amount was low, and the health coverage timeline was short, and that those were the kinds of things that sometimes drew attention. The assistant was a sharp woman named Phyllis. She heard what I was actually saying. 2 weeks later, the severance terms were revised. I never thought about it again. Not once. I went back to my inspections. Standing in that hallway with the coffee going cold in my hand, I read the document through twice. Mara Ellison. The door to her office was half open. I could hear her on the call, patient, measured, the voice of somebody who'd learned to hold her ground in rooms that didn't expect her to. I stepped back from the wall and finished my coffee. Iris had asked me once, when she was about 9, how you know if something you did mattered. I told her you usually don't, and that's not the reason you do it. She'd thought about that for about 4 seconds. and then asked if we could have pancakes. I thought about Iris when I heard Mara Ellison's call end. She came out of the office with her phone in her hand and stopped when she saw me. She read my face the way a smart person reads a room, fast, without showing it. "Everything all right with the inspection?" "Inspection's fine," I said. "I've got one corrective notation, the egress door, and 3 informational notes, nothing requiring immediate action. I'll have the written report to you by Thursday." She nodded. I should have said thank you for your time and walked out. That's the move. Keep it clean. What happened next was not exactly a decision. I looked at the framed document and then at her. She followed my eyes to the wall. Something shifted. Not her expression. She was good at her expression. Something underneath it. "That's from 5 years ago," she said. "I know," I said. "I signed it." The hallway was quiet, the way a room gets quiet when something that has been in motion for a long time comes to a stop. She looked at the document and then back at me, and I watched her doing the arithmetic she'd probably been doing in her head for 3 years, trying to put a face to a name she'd tracked down and then lost. "Tom Hadley," she said, saying it like she was checking it against something she'd memorized. "Yes, ma'am. I've looked for you," she said. 3 times. I asked the funds office twice, and once I went through the county records. The advisory board roster from that year had the wrong phone number for one member. "I moved the year after," I said. "My wife passed. My daughter and I went to a smaller place on Carver Road." She was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry." "Thank you." She looked at the document again. People do that when they're deciding how much to say. I let her take her time. "When they told me," she said slowly, "I had 4 months to go. I had $12 in savings, and a car with 140,000 miles on it. The original severance was 11 weeks and no continuation of coverage." I didn't say anything. The revised terms were 22 weeks and 14 months of coverage. She said it the way a person recites something they've said to themselves many times, in the dark, as a kind of accounting. "My daughter was born in the spring. She's 4 now. Her name is Cora." I thought about Iris at 4, the way she used to mispronounce refrigerator, the look on her face the first time she figured out how a deadbolt worked, like she'd cracked a code the whole world had been hiding. "I used the first 8 weeks to rest," Mara Ellison said. "The next 14 I spent putting together a business plan. I used the last 4 to find the space." She paused. "This space." She gestured at the building the way people gesture at things that cost them. "Everything to make." 22 people work here now," she said. "Last year our revenue was a little over 3 million. We're on track for 4.5 this year." I looked at the floor through the open doorway to the shop. The CNC operator was back at her lathe. The steady hum, the tools in their places. "I tried to find the name on that descent for 3 years," she said. "I wanted to say thank you. I wanted to know who it was." She looked at me steadily. "I didn't expect it to be the building inspector." "I didn't expect to be here either," I said. That surprised her into something close to a smile. She asked me if I had a few more minutes, and I said I did. We walked out to the floor, and she showed me the line, the CNC section, the assembly stations, the quality bay at the far end. She introduced me to 2 of the workers by name and told me what they'd been doing before they came here and what they did now. One woman had been a line cook. One man had driven a forklift for 12 years at a warehouse that closed. They both shook my hand like it meant something, and I understood they didn't know why exactly, only that their employer had brought a visitor to meet them, which she clearly didn't do every day. At the end of the floor, she stopped and looked at the south wall, which was the new addition, the steel-framed expansion that had added 800 square feet and 4 workstations. "We're adding 6 more people in the spring," she said. "There's a contract we just signed, a regional manufacturer, components for agricultural equipment. I've been working on it for 8 months. That's a good contract to have," I said. "Yes," she said. Then, quieter, "I'm telling you because I want you to know that the number keeps going. The 22. It keeps going." I understood that. I've thought about it in the weeks since. I'm not a man who needs a lot of external accounting. I do the work, I raise my daughter, I sleep fine. But there is a particular thing that happens when you learn that a small, quiet action you took in an unremarkable room produced a real thing in the world, produced 22 people at their stations, and a woman who moves, like she has 17 things in motion, and a 4-year-old named Cora, who will never know how close the math came to not working. It's not pride. It's closer to what Iris described when she figured out the deadbolt. Like something that was already true just became visible. On the way out, I stopped to look at the lobby light fixture that had been flickering when I walked in. Fluorescent ballast. End of its cycle. I carry spares in the truck, the county inspector's version of a spare tire. I can swap this out before I go, I said. Takes about 4 minutes. Mara Ellison looked at me for a long moment. Mr. Hadley, she said, you've already done enough. I swapped it anyway. The light came on clean and steady. Outside, backing the county truck out onto Route 9, I called Iris. She picked up on the second ring the way she always does. Dad, are you driving? Just leaving a job, I said. How was the math test? I think I got everything right. What do you mean you think? I mean I got everything right, and I'm being modest. That's my girl, I said. There was a pause, which with Iris means she's deciding whether to say the next thing. Dad? Yeah. Did something good happen today? I pulled out onto Route 9. The fields on either side were flat and November brown, the sky low and white the way it gets here before the first snow. And behind me in the rear view, the building sat solid on its lot, with the parking lot clean and the new addition squared off right, the way a thing looks when it's been built to last. Something good happened today, I said. She didn't ask me what. She knows me well enough to know I'll tell her when the time is right. The time was that evening, at the kitchen table, with the overhead light on and the radiator ticking. I told her about the vote and the hallway and the wall and the 22 people. I told her about the agricultural contract, and the woman who moves fast, and the 4-year-old named Cora. Iris listened the way she listens. Completely, without interrupting, her hands folded on the table, the way her mother's hands used to fold. When I finished, she was quiet for a while. So she found you, Iris said. In a way, I said. I found her first. I just didn't know it. Iris thought about that. I like that story, she said. She got up and took her plate to the sink. Pancakes tomorrow, she said. Pancakes tomorrow, I said. I sat at the table for a while after she went upstairs, with the radiator ticking and the light steady overhead. In the morning, I would file my report. 3 informational notes, 1 corrective notation, all within tolerance or on its way there. The load-bearing walls were sound. I wrote that down too.